there's a number of scales that you can play over the 2/5 to create tension. One of these being the half-whole diminished scale. And if we analyze the half-whole diminished scale against the dominant chord, in this case we'll use G half-whole diminished over a G dominant seventh. You'll see that the altered notes that you gain are the flat 9, the sharp 9, and the flat 5. The next step is, once you understand, what scale you can substitute to create the tension, then it's a matter of course, application. And that's really where the hard part comes in. For myself, it's taken me many years to be able to see substitution scales within what you might call the natural scales. And what I've had to do is a number of different exercises to focus in on solving the problem. Because what would happen is, I could play, for instance, whether it be a half-whole diminished or a melodic minor or, whatever scale, in all 12 keys all over the neck, but when you are improvising and you're kind of in midstream in the middle of the neck on the G string and you've got to switch, what would happen with me would be like, the lights turn out. It's like, where do I go? I'm lost. And I really didn't understand why this was happening because I could play the scales. And so what I had to do was to break down the problem. I'd have to break down the guitar into small bits. And so I would put on the progression, like a 2/5. And so I would say, okay, well, if I were to take just like, let's say the B and the E string, right? Okay, these notes are in the key of C right here. And by the way, this is a 2/5 in the key of C. It's D minor 7 to G7. Okay, so anyhow, so I'd be like, okay, these are the notes, right, that are in C. Okay, on these two strings. And then I would be like, okay, and these are the notes that are in this diminished scale, the G half-whole diminished. Okay, technical difficulties. Hang on a second. So this should kick back in. But so I would have to go back and forth and kind of refresh my memory banks, as it were. And then from there, I just start playing in real time and then try to go into that diminished scale or whatever substitution scale I'm working on and then play out of it back inside at the proper time. And so for the most part, it'd be like over the D minor 7 I would be playing inside, and over the G7 I would be playing outside for the most part. So I might start out like and another thing I would do is, having Band in the Box, you can watch the progression as it's playing, so you know what chord you're on, and that helps too, until you can just kind of feel it internally. So after you kind of work on 2 strings, then you would go to like 3 strings, and you'd say, okay, these are the notes that I'm going to stay within this parameter here. And then you'd say, okay, and then here's the diminished. And really, when you limit yourself like that, it's hard to be melodic, but you just do the best you can to go in and out. So, string. Okay. Okay, those are my inside notes, and then my outside notes would be, okay, so then you just go from there. And you don't always have to go out on the 5 chord. And having said that, you don't always have to stay in on the 2 chord. You could play, for instance, in on the 2 chord, go out on the 5, stay out on the 2, stay out on the 5 again, and then come back in on the 2, as just an example. But it's just that main purpose of tension and release. So anyway, once you have added all the strings, okay, and so now you're like, okay, here's my scale pattern, diminished, and then my Dorian, or whatever you want to call that, the key of C. Then you just stay within that parameter, this position. Try not to move out of position. Just stay right here within this box. So that would be like okay. And there's some exercises that I've created that kind of help me see some like arpeggio type patterns within the diminished scale, and I will demonstrate those. Okay, before I get into some exercises and licks, why don't we just cover the G half-whole diminished scale first.